County Board of Elections Board meeting for December 19th, 2023. Please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I don't believe, do we have any minutes to approve? No. Okay, so we're going to.
No, we put that on there anticipating, but we're going to have a group of minutes for you at the next meeting.
Okay, then Mr. Allen, would you like to review the agenda with us?
Quickly, we'll open it up to public comment. Then I will have a report. I'll try to keep short, including the certification of the results of 4 recounts, 2 in Bethel Township, 1 in Edgemont Township, and 1 in Glen Olden Borough. I'll briefly discuss various other items, including plans to pursue the consolidations of precincts, as well as the Radnor Township redistricting. We have a polling place change, but it's not really ready to go. We have a few requests for campaign finance waivers, which Ms. Jackson will address. And then we have a tentative date of January 23rd for the next meeting, but as the public may not know, this is the period when the political parties put forward lists for council to consider appointments for the next 2-year period.
Thank you. All right, is there any public comment? No. All right, then Mr. Allen, let's talk about these great recounts.
So in the last week of November, first week of December, the board staff conducted 4 recounts in the following contests, which were relatively close based on the initial unofficial results, as well as, but they were anywhere from 10 to approximately 30 votes apart. The 4 contests were Bethel Supervisor 6-year term and Bethel Supervisor for 2-year term, which involves 6 precincts, Edgemont Supervisor 6-year term, which involved 2 precincts, and Glen Olden Borough Council, that was a vote for 4 for a 4-year term, and that involved 6 precincts. The original results of each contest were verified through both a scanner recount and then a hand recount, which we're not required to do, but we thought it was a show of good faith. These processes were all observed by representatives of both the winning and losing sides and/or their political party representatives. It's worth noting, and I called him and asked him permission to quote him on this. Former Republican state representative Stephen Barrar was in attendance and observed 2 of these recounts, and he pulled me aside to say that he used to believe until that day firmly that hand recounts were the way to go. And even though staff worked out a very effective way of performing the hand recounts, we call it separate and stack and then count and then have 3 sets of eyes on it, as well as double check each stack. He saw how the possibility for human error was much stronger. And, we'd find there would be a discrepancy between 2 people counting a stack of 20, and invariably they'd recount it and find, yes, it was originally 19 or 21. Anyway, the whole process confirmed the original results, and which is a credit not to the board staff as much as it is board staff processing mail-in ballots, but also the poll workers whose work held up under close examination. So at this time, I'd like to request the board consider a motion to certify the results of the recounts in the contest for Bethel Supervisor 6-year term, Bethel Supervisor 2-year term, Edgemont Supervisor 6-year term, and Glen Olden Borough Council 4-year term.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? I just want to say that I think, again, we are seeing the results of an incredible team. Although the poll workers did amazing, they are also, you're in front of me, team, and you help make them amazing, but they are amazing people. They rise up and do incredible work in the field under stressful conditions. And I saw it at Radnor with that evacuation and that change firsthand under the most stressful conditions. But each time we have these recounts, we are proven again and again that we have, I've said it, the best team maybe in the world. You know, we're still in dispute about that. Mr. Allen wants to argue with me that I might be exaggerating, but I don't think he thinks I am. Thank you all for all that you do. And if you just think about it, it's just amazing. You hear what's in the news, you hear what's in the world, and then you see the results of this work being tested by hand, the hand count even. It's incredible. And we're really lucky to have all of you hard workers and the country, that I can say with truth and not exaggeration. The country is lucky to have all of you here in this important county in Pennsylvania, this important Commonwealth in the country. So you're awesome. So I hope you all have wonderful time off soon, because I hope that what Mr. Allen said when he said, as you might not know, this is the time when people are reappointed to the boards. I hope it's also the time that our team gets a little bit of quiet before the next storm and a little bit of time to be with their families and appreciate how awesome they are, and let their families appreciate how awesome they are. So thank you all. Mr. McBlain, do you have anything to?
I don't have anything to add.
Mr. Alberts?
No, I don't, although I just one actual point. I guess I should thank Mr. Barrar. I think it's important that I'm glad he decided to go on the record with his comments through Jim here. I think it's important for all notable folks from both parties, elected officials, former elected officials, when at these moments when their faith in the process is restored by their observations of the work that our team does, I'd like to encourage all of them to speak publicly about it to help, reassure the public that they can have faith in our elections too.
Well said. All right. With that, do we have all those in favor of the motion say aye? Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair, especially for the kind remarks about the staff.
The world, are we going to the world, Mr. Allen?
Well, definitely in the United States.
Okay. All right.
We're in competition. We're waiting to hear from the EU. And next, yesterday, on behalf of Delaware County Elections, we filed for a $45,000 grant through a federal agency, the United States Election Assistance Commission, for possible use in recruitment, training, and assignment of college poll workers. Delaware County is very fortunate in that we have an array of colleges and universities, so that if we are selected to receive this grant, it's a competitive program. That funding would support recruiting, hiring, and placing college students as poll workers or in poll worker support roles, such as in media with drop-off or class instruction for our poll workers, or in Chester at our central count. Over the next 2 years, that's what this grant program would cover. So I just wanted to report that to the board.
That's awesome. Who is EAC for everybody's name?
The Election Assistance Commission, which is the federal agency that was created under the Help America Vote Act in 2002, 2003. And that agency oversees all of the certification of voting equipment from each and every vendor at the federal level. It also attempts to promote best practices, which vary from state to state based on the unique laws and systems in each state. So they're like a clearinghouse in addition to their certification role on issues such as accessibility for polling places, accessibility of the ballot for poll workers, rather for voters, and overall,
So we're competing nationally for this grant? Yes. But we have over 40 colleges and universities. So you were saying we have a good shot because of the diversity of our.
I don't know what our shot is. I wouldn't quantify our chances.
You mentioned the importance of having that many resources.
But we tried to make a competitive grant proposal that leans on a mix of local funds and federal funds for this project, because we would be spending this money on poll workers no matter what we do.
Yeah.
So whether it's college students or others, this funding is in our budget.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Next, we received 6 quotes from printers for the upcoming annual mailing of applications for mail and absentee ballots for 2024. And we'll be working to get that mailing completed in mid-January, well ahead of the deadline, which is the first week of February. Next, I'm asking the board, I've asked the board previously to authorize us to pursue precinct consolidations. I'm asking the board to consider a motion on specific precinct consolidations that are outlined in the agenda today. As background, Delaware County has more than its fair share of precincts. To give you an idea, Montgomery County has 50% more voters than Delaware County, but Montgomery County has fewer overall precincts. And the reason is that here in Delaware County, we have several micro precincts with anywhere from 200 to 700 to 800 voters. One as small as 130, 150. And we began reviewing approximately 4 dozen pairs of precincts that might be able to be consolidated, neighboring precincts. Now, we currently narrowed that list down to 3 dozen pairs based on a closer review of districts, MDJ districts, school regions, state rules, and separately, we also may gain a 1 precinct reduction in Radnor through the redistricting plan that the township passed. So together, consolidating precincts for a net reduction of 37 precincts could save the county more than $100,000 in costs annually and assure that we aren't scrambling to find 5-member poll worker teams for so many locations, as well as programming ballots and equipment, finding polling places, all to serve relatively small numbers of voters. I would therefore request the board consider a motion to authorize election staff and our solicitor to pursue the list of consolidations on this agenda through a combination of public notice to the affected municipalities, and then consideration by the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas and the Pennsylvania Department of State.
So, Mr. Allen, we reviewed specifically the numbers in terms of voters in the consolidation presentation that you made some time ago. And what I don't have in front of me is how this has or hasn't changed from that. I know we removed some from that list.
Essentially, we removed some. For example, there were precinct consolidations that would result in 1,400 or more voters. And even though that's not a supersized number, we have several precincts with 2,000 or more voters, 2,400 voters that operate just fine. However, we've received through CCAP, the County Council Association, County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, that and the Department of State, that the Department of State is going to try to hold the line at a slightly lower number on any proposals. So with that in mind, we scaled back some of them. In other cases, there might be 2 precincts that are neighboring. However, if there are school regions in that school district, we don't want to create a split ballot or a split precinct where you'd have a 1 ballot style for some of the voters in that precinct and another ballot style for a different school region for other voters in that same precinct. So to avoid any of that, as well as any kind of conflict with MDJ districts, we had to scale we eliminated approximately 12 of the precincts, or 12 pairs of the precincts that we were considering previously.
And were the remainder all on that list, or are there some new ones?
No, there are no new ones. Some of them are especially straightforward. In some communities, we have precincts with, neighboring precincts, one with 170 voters and the other with maybe 400 voters. And we really shouldn't be trying to find 2 teams of poll workers, 2 sets of cages, 2 deliveries, 2 polling places. It's a ripple effect on our administration overall. It complicates election administration.
Right.
And-
No, I'm super supportive of the goal, and I was very supportive of that list with a couple outliers that I think Mr. McBlain and I asked you questions about last time. I just don't have it in front of me. And that's my one hesitation. I would like to, is there a material, I mean, between doing it now and the January meeting?
Well, I don't.
May I ask a question to clarify? We're not actually approving these consolidations today. What I heard from Mr. Allen was that we're asking to for authorization to allow Mr. Allen and the staff to pursue the efforts to consolidate these precincts. We're not voting on the consolidation today.
That is correct.
Okay. I was going to ask that, but then you said that you were going to then authorize, where our motion goes all the way through to court activity. So it did sound to me like a motion to authorize.
You're right, but it also, as part of this, would involve confirming our intentions with the municipalities, offering to come to their borough township meetings to discuss, answer any questions they may have. And perhaps most importantly, the court would be required to conduct hearings where the public can weigh in and offer its thoughts about why this might be a good or bad thing for particular voters, neighborhoods, what have you.
Okay. Well, as long as we have the opportunity to collectively to review the list again, the pared down, just to have that on record in a public meeting. I thought we'd already authorized pursuit of this noble goal. So totally supportive of that. I just want to make sure when we do it, we have it in front of us when we actually authorize the court filing. So we can talk about that. Okay, at a later date. Well, then is there a motion to pursue the consolidation of the precincts listed in our agenda today? I don't know.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. That motion passes. Can we make sure, Mr. Allen, that the agenda is attached to the meeting minutes to record the specific precincts?
We can, as well as a copy of the report that provides an overview of the voter populations and the polling places and the voting districts in each one of these pairs.
Great. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I make one comment or question on what we've just approved?
Yes.
Just to, like I said, I'm certainly supportive of it, and the municipal officials I've spoken with, generally uniformly are supportive of the effort. Two issues that I think we should probably, I would like to see addressed, sort of upfront on the process is when we do this. Number one, what criteria or what objective standard are we going to use in terms of who will be the judge of election, who will be the election board for, say Clifton Heights 3132 being consolidated. I think probably in most of these situations, the answer will become plain. But in the situation where we do have two elected active, boards, what criteria will we use, to make the determination about who will be the election board in that situation? That's number one. And number two, the other feedback I got, generally speaking, from the municipalities is, they want input, or they would like input into, where the consolidated polling place would be. And once again, I think in most of these situations, the answer will be obvious. But those were the two issues that I got feedback on from municipal officials and talking to them about this project.
Both of those make sense, Mr. McBlain. I see Mr. Allen nodding his head. I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but
I also received similar questions about election board consolidations. Yeah. And I think Mr. McBlain is correct, and it will be plain. I explained to the one person who asked me a question is that in most of these cases, there is no election board to consolidate. It's a rarity. I mean, with micro precincts, it's a rarity that we have two elected boards. I think Lansdowne 7 and 8 is one of the examples of that. But certainly in the Upper Darby 7-2 and 7-4, that won't be an issue, right? We appoint emergency people for those precincts more often than not. And I think that another thing, and Mr. Allen can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the vast majority of these consolidations, these precincts are already voting in the same location anyway, so there would be no change. But certainly if if we move it to a smaller of 2 locations, or we're consolidating it, then that might create an awkward situation in the odd circumstance where they're not in the same location. So
That's correct. In two-thirds of these pairs of precincts, 46 of these precincts that are under consideration, the voters are now and would still be voting in the same place. Perhaps the only exception might be in Trainer, where we're looking at combining 2 small precincts there. All of them may be moving to the new Trainer Municipal Building, which was just very recently opened. These are both valid questions. This board has a long history of consulting with party leaders. I was amused just the other day. There's a kind of a forum of election directors, and somebody from another county posted their checklist for things that they do if they have to change a polling place. And to my shock, there wasn't on that checklist consult with both parties leaders to make sure that there aren't any major objections. That's something we do here. Secondly, Pam Lairdson, our very attentive poll worker coordinator, has already raised the question about what we're going to do if we have 2 elected board members. For example, 2 elected Joes, or 2 elected majority and 2 elected minority. And we've discussed this, and we've yet to run it by the solicitor. I mean, it's kind of what we'll have to deal with if we get these consolidations completed. But we've contemplated that the objective standard might be, in that case, if one's elected and the other one's appointed, the elected one obviously prevails. If both are elected, then we would look at how many votes each received, because we're talking about a combined pair of precincts. If one earned 100 votes and the other one won their office with 90 votes, the one who received 100 votes would prevail. And then from there, we would have to try to balance out party membership based on who's the Joe, who's the majority, and who's the minority. So those are things that staff are very concerned about. Pam's been eager to see this list for quite a while now, and she's been very patient with me.
We've all been patient for this list, but it's such an important list. I'm so excited that you're doing it. When you present to us the pared down packet, it will have all the information except for where there's a conflict about judges of elections and how that'll be sorted, because as I remember, it's listed the location as well. So when we go through that, I would love to go through that in a way where we actually look at each precinct, the way that Mr. McBlain and Mr. Alberts have noted, to note any issues that might need to be resolved and how they've been resolved. With the consultation, Mr. Centrelli, you're on the hook now for making sure that we do that correctly under the law.
Absolutely. We've been on it for quite some time.
Great. Thank you.
combat is no longer, right?
I would love to see people fighting to retain their job as judge of elections. We could, right? We could use them all over the county. All right, Mr. Allen, thank you. We're now on Radnor.
Is there a vote on that?
Sorry. All those in favor of the motion, say, I thought we voted on it.
Oh, we did vote.
Yeah,
Well, we could vote on it again.
All right. I thought I said,
I
let's
think we did vote on it, yeah.
attach the
I
agenda to the
apologize.
meeting. No, it's okay.
Next, this is just formally adopting the Radnor Township redistricting with one modification that we've discussed previously, and that was avoiding creating a micro precinct in part of their plan that would have had only about 35 residents based on an affidavit we've received from Villanova University. So we've just slightly tweaked the one section of one ward, and otherwise we want to move forward with that in court and legal notices.
And I think from the perspective of the public, if they're really following closely, there's been a lot of work that went behind that isn't discussed, right? To make sure that we understood what was in that precinct, that micro precinct as proposed in that presentation here today, and how to resolve it. I'm really grateful for that work, because it would have been unfortunate to create a micro precinct with 35 voters while we're talking about consolidating precincts with 100 to 200 voters. All right, is there a motion to adopt the Radnor Township redistricting proposal?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, that motion passes.
Thank you. The next item is really to advise any members of the public. Upper Providence, Fourth Ward, First Precinct, and Fourth Ward, Second Precinct have long voted in the Acme Shopping Center in Media on Baltimore Pike. And the good news is that the local economy is such that there are no more vacant stores available. The bad news for us as election administrators is that we need to find a new polling place for those voters. That'll affect quite a few number of voters. We have a couple of options, but we have not nailed down which one we're going to pursue. So stay tuned. Next on the agenda, Ms. Jackson has a few campaign finance waivers. I'd also like to point out that Ms. Jackson has been working to introduce online campaign finance filings for this coming January. So we'll have news on that next month.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Right. Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
This morning we have three campaign finance waivers to be heard. The first one is a committee, and the committee's name is Rose Valley Republican Committee. They failed to file a cycle 3, and their current dues are $220. This is their second request. They were approved for waiver, first waiver on March the 28th. And in this situation, I cannot recommend them for a second waiver. But it'd be your decision whether that's approved. I believe you have a copy of the. No.
Not here in front of us.
Okay. Okay.
I may have- oh,
Well, basically, it says that they apologize for the late filing fees for the primary report. After the primary, they had a number of issues and deadlines that had to be met. They had a summer vacation with departure dates scheduled last week in June and in May. So it's basically they forgot. But like I said, they've applied for a waiver and were approved back in March. And this would be their second waiver.
All right, any discussion before we? No, wait, is that the only one that you are not recommending?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In times past, we have half the filing fee, like made them responsible for half of the fee. But I just feel like.
I mean, what you haven't said is probably all the ways that you put them on notice, which I'm
Yes.
sure are many.
Yes, there are. I didn't print out their notices, but they were notified. Committees are required to file.
Are they now up to date with their filings?
Yes, they currently are.
And this is the outstanding fine from cycle 3.
Yes,
that we're
it's
talking
cycle
about.
3.
And then what was waived previously? What cycle?
The other cycle was cycle 7, which was their annual report,
From last
which
year?
all committees have to follow cycle 7. And then the amount that they owe, the $220, that's a long period of time. That's almost the maximum fee. The fees start out at $20 a day for the first 6 days, and then add $10 a day up to a maximum of $250. So the $220 fee is over a long period of time. So I mean, I know that they're saying that
But they're getting reminders during that time.
exactly. So you're talking about over a 2-month period.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to deny the waiver request.
Second that.
All right, thank you.
Well, wait, no, we have to vote on it.
Oh,
So, okay. And Ms. Jackson, it must be very frustrating for you to have to go through this. So
I try to put everybody on.
you
new.
put everybody on regular
Yeah.
notice, and I hate these little fees because sometimes they put people at a disadvantage, but it sounds like they've had plenty of opportunity here.
Yes, I believe
Okay.
so.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, that motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. So the other two waivers I have are filing candidate waivers. I have a Michael Burns who states that he intended to form a committee, but that didn't pan out and that he didn't realize the requirements to file. He has late fees of $250 for his cycle 2, and I would recommend that to be approved. And then I also have an Adrian Gonzalez who failed to file a cycle 5 and cycle 6. And he also states that he was unaware of having to file because he said he spent no money. Although the amount of money that they spend or don't spend doesn't negate the requirement to file. They still have to file reports, whether it's 0 or not. But in this case, I would recommend him also being waived.
And that's been made clear to him, I assume, in the.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Notices were mailed. I have the dates of the notices that were sent out. So in his case, notice was mailed September the 18th, November the 15th, and December the 8th.
Okay.
So all of the candidates are notified of the requirements to file.
Thank
I think they just get.
All those in favor of approving the waiver requests as listed by Ms. Jackson, the two?
Aye, or so moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
None opposed.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for all your work. Happy
One
holidays.
question, Ms. Jackson. So in addition to the folks who come to us for waivers, I assume there's a number of other candidates and committees who have these fines and pay them without requesting waivers.
Correct.
And is it a large number?
Yes, it is a large number.
Do you know it off the
Yeah.
top of your head?
No, I don't know. It's a very small number that requests the waivers,
Right.
but the majority of them do file reports and pay fines and fees. Waivers are not something that are advertised. It's usually for extenuating circumstances. So we're trying to give them out very sparingly, but the
Understood.
majority of them do pay.
Good to know. Thank you.
But
Well-
would you have an estimate of how many campaign finance fees and fines you've collected this year roughly?
Yes, it's approximately $10,000 in fees and fines.
That's pretty significant
Yes.
if the cap is 250.
Correct. Just this month alone, we've collected over $3,000 in fines. Well, that's between document requests and fees and late fees. Yeah,
So for any would-be candidates watching this broadcast or in the room, it behooves you to learn the rules before you file so that you don't find yourself writing a check in response to one of Ms. Jackson's notifications.
that's
Now,
correct.
do we have a lot of people who are in compliance with the rules?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Yes, the majority of them are in compliance.
good.
I would just like to also point out that on the instruction forms, on number 16, it does explain the following requirements, and we do give everybody a copy of the instructions.
No doubt.
Yes,
Yes, thank you.
thank you.
When the, Mr. Allen, do we know when the county council meeting is to appoint the next members?
Well, I don't, there's a meeting on the 2nd and presumably 2 weeks later on the 16th, 2nd and the 3rd, 2nd being the agenda meeting and the 3rd being the actual action meeting. And then the 2 weeks later. So I don't know at this time what the timeline will be for the two major political parties to submit their lists and then for the council to review and make its decisions. So
But January.
But
23rd is
hopefully by the-
reasonably positioned.
hopefully by the middle of the month, we'll all know.
Well, then tentative meeting on January 23rd, 2024. Any other business from anybody?
We will all see each other at the meeting.
I do too.
One small item I forgot to mention
Wait,
earlier.
we don't have to say, I hope we don't have to say that it's a pleasure serving with you both, but just in case we do have to say it, it's a pleasure serving with you both.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I echo that. I'm hopeful that perhaps, I would be submitted by the chairman and the council would accept it. But if not, I want to thank the chair and Scott for serving with me. I think we've done a pretty good job over these last couple of years, and Mr. Allen and all the staff that's there. Thank you so much. And I, would echo what I've said before to the residents of Delaware County, is I think Delaware County conducts fair and free elections.
Mr. McLean, I don't think that there are many people, Democrat or Republican, who know the election code as well as you do and can provide such input. Not always agree with you, but really always appreciate and respect your input. It's great.
Well,
So I
as my father always said about me, uh, seldom wrong, but never in doubt.
That's awesome. All right, well, we're going to assume that we'll all have good news, but either way, we're going to be here. Someone's going to be here on January 23rd for the meeting, or we'll move the date and Mr. Allen will advertise that. With that, this meeting is adjourned, and I call to order the Voter Registration Commission meeting of Delaware County for December 19th, 2023. Miss Winterbottom. We do have a public comment period. Does anybody wish to make public comment on the voter registration committee meeting? No? Okay. Then we will hear your report.
Not much to update. We've processed about 8,000 backlog applications from the last day to register for the general. In January, beginning of January, we will start the process for our 5-year notices, mail those out, which will inactivate some voters. We also are getting ready for our poll pad shelving in the office to accommodate all the poll pads. That will be happening hopefully beginning of next year. And that's about all I have for right now.
Great. Well, that's exciting, right? We're looking forward to the poll pad shelving event.
Yes, we are.
Great.
So
Are there any questions for Ms. Winterbottom?
real quickly, Crystal, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit. A few months ago, automatic voter registration became enacted at the Department of State and at PennDOT, so that if a person visiting PennDOT met all of the legal requirements, meaning 18 years of age and U.S. citizen through proof, either through their birth certificate or passport, what have you, they were no longer asked whether they wanted to update their registration or register, but it just automatically transferred their information over. And there has been a report recently that on the whole, statewide, there's been a 65% increase in information coming from PennDOT. Not a 65% increase in registrations. A lot of these are simply changes, but some of them are new registrations. And I wanted you to comment on whether your office has seen, your staff have seen and handled a lot of that.
No. So, I mean, we're used to a lot of electronic applications. Has it been something that we've noticed? No, that in an uptick. So from November 8th to yesterday, the PennDOT initial applications, which we call DOTIA, we just had about 1,500. That's out of those 8,000 applications. That's including paper applications. That's also including address change only from PennDOT, also transfers. So all that. I mean, it didn't make a big noticeable change to us.
Have you seen the drives in advance of a presidential, or are they going to start, you think, in the new year?
I think they will, usually for presidential elections, we see that uptick at the end of January, beginning of February.
So we'll keep an eye out for that. I expect you're going to have.
We have been seeing a lot of applications being picked up in packs. We have them in packs of 50. A lot of times if they want like a whole case, they'll request that from the state. But we have seen a few individuals come in to pick up quite a few packs of forms.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have, Mr. McLean, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Mr. Alberts? All right. Well, thank you very much and have a wonderful holiday.
You guys as well. Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing further, then this meeting is adjourned as well. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.
All right.